So how you doing, Scott?
Good, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm living in the heat. It's going to be 108 today.
I got my Kurt Angle shirt on, make wrestling great again.
That's
I
awesome.
wore it specifically for today.
That's awesome, man. He's got some interesting stuff coming out like that. We'll be tweeting about that soon.
Yeah, I love that guy, man. I really enjoy his story and everything he's done in his career. So I will support him for things like that.
Yeah, I had Scott Hewlett on the other day, who was the 2018 world champion, and he got to tell a story about he met up with me in Indianapolis last year for a convention called Days of the Dead, and we had a good time there. And so Scott brought his podcast posse with him, and
nice.
He got to meet Kurt for the first time, and I gave him a backstage autograph session version 2.0 that he got
nice.
signed. He got signed by Kurt, so he's the only one in the world that has one.
Oh, that's cool.
And he spent, I don't know, a good half hour, in between customers coming in and buying autographs like that, getting a chat with Kurt, like that. So it was cool.
Oh, that is cool.
But I kind of miss those days right now with that business of going out and getting to meet the fans with the talent stuff,
Yeah, it's crazy what's going on right now.
So, today I wanted to talk to you about, because you brought it up in a message to me about, after our last talk, the three of us, you, Steve, and I, talks like that, both you guys messaged me like, oh, how strange, right after our match, like, I just sold some Spike Dudley, and I just sold, it's like, stuff that never sells, and all of a sudden it starts selling, that kind of thing, which is funny.
Right.
But then you mentioned to me in a message something about certain superstar cards being signed by the superstars. And I thought that's an interesting topic to talk about, whether players like that or not.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of am curious if there's people that are harder to get than others, right? We know like Triple H probably isn't signing as much stuff as say like, Matt and Jeff Hardy, right?
Sure.
So I would think like things from him would be harder to find, or like Stacy Keibler, right? Like I would think a Stacy Keibler card would be more expensive because she's not out signing stuff like a lot of these guys are now that are still kind of on the circuit and out and about.
Especially her not signing any wrestling related stuff.
That's right. So like I've got a Survivor Series 3 Stacy card, superstar card signed by her. And I think that's pretty cool. And I don't know what the value would be, right? Because the regular card's what, like $2-3? What's that signature worth? And you said, you've got a lot of Rob Van Dam stuff signed, and does it sell? Is it selling for more than the regular card?
It does, depending on.
View it as damaged even.
It sits for a long time before someone just says, I kind of want that. And the number one thing that they would buy will be like a face card, but they won't buy like, RVD or
nice hang time, right?
Or nice hang times like that. That'll sit for a long time, or maybe the Revolution card, that faction card. It just sits. But I don't know. It's tough. I kind of equate it to sports cards. I mean, some guys would say like, if I had a John Elway rookie card and I had John Elway sign it, well, I just ruined it because it's no longer a mint rookie card.
That's right.
And I'm wondering, would raw deal collectors look at the same way, or I don't know. I mean, what kind of markup do you put on it? I usually just tack on it, $10. I don't care who it is.
Right. It depends on the game. And what it is. Like for Verse System, it's drawn, so it has an artist. So I usually mark it up like 20-25% if it has an artist signature. So on a 50-cent card, you're only paying 15 cents more for a signature. So that's kind of cool. On a $15 card, obviously it's a little more, but for other games, like I've got.
You mentioned some Star Trek stuff.
I might have them right here. Yeah, so like Star Trek, I just had 2 Scotty signatures on cards, and I had those signed when I was a teenager. He came through Nashville at a convention, and I had him sign it. And I just sold those for $100 each. He's passed away now.
Sure.
When Leonard Nimoy passed away, who played Spock, his cards, I sold out of all of his cards. And people were just buying them thinking the market would explode. It really didn't. But, you know, like, he's gone now, so how do you get a signature unless you're buying it from someone? But he signed a lot of stuff.
Sure.
You know, Kirk, same thing. But, I mean, those signatures, when you go to a convention, you know, Mark Hamill for a signature is like $250 for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're paying to get, you know, $50 to get in, $250 for the signature. You have to wait in line. Like, it's a process.
Yeah, that's your preaching
So,
to the choir on that, man. That's my main bread and butter business right there.
right. Yeah. You know, so like those cards, you know, you kind of take the value of the card plus say $250 for the signature, and that's really the worth of it. But with wrestling, you know, I don't know if it's because you can easily get to a lot of these guys still, or it just doesn't have that same mystique as an actor or actress would, that it just doesn't have that same value.
I think it's because
I don't know why.
wrestlers typically are more readily available. It's a
Right.
year-round, no days off type of deals like that, where they're just traveling all over the place, and they're going to eventually probably come back to your town again in a year or 2 years. So I think it's just easier to come across. Again, like you said, Triple H would be tough because even though he's still out there, he still doesn't sign. He's not
Right.
He's not very fan friendly in that respect, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and you mentioned Stacy Keibler, and it's like, yeah, I mean, she kind of distanced herself from wrestling, so finding stuff from her signed on a wrestling-related item is probably pretty tough.
Right. Exactly.
I would agree with you. I think I would probably, you know, her value of an autograph on a WWE card would be more expensive to me than a Triple H would be.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the person I bought it from, he was saying, like, I think it's about $125 is what he valued it at. And I was kind of like, you know, I don't know about that. I think I'll eventually throw it up on the board and see if anybody wants to, you know, make me an offer on it, right?
which we'll be talking about that in a second, too.
but maybe not even make me an offer, but just kind of like, hey, like, what are your thoughts? Because I did that with Star Trek here recently. I said, like, I don't know what the value is. I'm not going and getting Star Trek signatures. I know Star Wars more than I do Star Trek. I had about 30 signatures on cards. I said, what are you guys willing to pay? You know, most of them range from $25 to $45. And so I just kind of like, you know, different people made offers. I kind of took an average, said, all right, this is what I'm selling these at. If you guys want to pay it, here's what it is. So, I mean, I do think like taking the offers makes sense on things that we don't have a value on.
Correct.
When you have like stores where there are values available, it's much easier to kind of find that value. And if people are like, oh, I don't know, like, then do some research, you know. But when there isn't research to be had, you know, it is a good way to kind of source what the value is.
Yeah, I agree. Because before we get into that whole market pricing type of stuff, like I think it's probably a wise thing to do when it comes to your autograph cards on WWE stuff. I think it'd probably be good to go out there and do the same thing you did with Star Trek and say, listen, there's no real price guide from anybody, whether it be through, you know, me or Steve or use like that on our site.
Right.
You know, I made my shit up. I just kind of made up the price on my own. I'm like, okay, well, it's on a Dude Nice Hang Time throwback. You know, I already know what my price is of that. I'm just going to tack on an extra $10, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and I mean, I sell dead card games. I have, you know, a lot of them, not just Raw Deal. And most of the time, there aren't other stores selling it. I mean, for Raw Deal, at least there's like 3 of us mainly that are selling it, plus Facebook people, plus eBay. You know, I sell some games where there's no one else. There's no other websites. So I basically create these values, and then that's kind of what everybody bases it off of. You know, like I basically am the only one selling Star Trek singles now online. So I have a guy that always posts on Facebook, hey, I'm selling it at 20%, 25% off my pricing, you know, and I'm like, cool, you know, like work those margins, man, you know, like.
Yeah. Well, trust me, I think we all get that when it comes to Raw Deal too. We get quoted saying, you know, I'm selling 75% of X's pricing, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine. In some ways it's flattering because you know that people are they're monitoring your stuff. You've established a benchmark. So, you know, people are going to, you know, exchange with each other pretty much, which is
it's
kind of what's going on right now a lot.
It's interesting though, because like if you take some of the rarer superstars, like take Kane stuff, why would you ever discount it 20% to sell it from our value? Because a lot of times we're out of some of that.
Yep.
So why are you selling it for less when we don't have it? It's not easy for us to even get. Yep. So if you have it, sell it at our pricing because you can get it. So you're just taking money out of your own pocket.
Or at that particular time, if you're doing your homework properly, you go and say, you know what? I'm checking category 1. I'm checking VelaCards. I'm checking launching. All 3 are out of stock in this card. They
Yep.
are on average this price. I'm going to mark it up a little even higher because where else are you going to get it?
Well, and that when I redid my pricing here, I kind of did that where I was like, all right, do you have it in stock? Does Steve have it in stock? No. Okay, like I have like one. Why am I gonna put it at your price because you're always out and he's always out? Like, why wouldn't I bump it up a little more? And that's what I did on some of them. And I had
Sure.
one guy say like, oh, like you don't have it at that old price. Like, why not? And I'm like, because it's not that value anymore. I didn't. That value that I had was from years back, right?
Because
I haven't
market
priced
values,
it
they
since.
fluctuate. They go like this. And
Yeah.
you got, we're doing the homework of going out there, being proactive and checking what pricing is going for and adjusting accordingly.
Right. There's a website called pricecharting.com and they track video game sales on eBay, Amazon, big websites, that sort of thing. GameStop, they track it there. So they can show you that sales data of how games are selling, and I think that if we had that for raw deal, like if they took our 3 sites and we're kind of doing this average, they'd see like, that Brothers Till the End is just going up. Even the regular versions, the I've got 2 words for you is always going up.
Yep.
But then you've got these other cards that just sit, and it's like, yeah, they're going to sit, and they're not really worth much. But those other ones, everybody wants 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, or 6 of them, and
Sure.
another big boot for Kane. Those are hard to get. So even at $15 a pop, I sell out right away. So what's the real price? Is it $20?
Yeah.
My thinking is when it makes you think, can I afford this or should I buy it? That's when like you've hit the right equilibrium
Sure.
of pricing.
Yep.
So
I agree.
anyways, yeah.
That's how it works. So, market pricing is kind of a little bit of a science project. You got to go out there and do your thing. And some
Yeah.
guys just use our prices and they just go ahead. That's what they do, which leads into this conversation, which is a very recent topic going on right now. It's actually happening right now on one of the Facebook groups where people are talking about making offers.
Right.
So right now it's like, there's some people out there, these naysayers who complain saying, be reasonable with your pricing. I'm looking for something reasonable. But what's
Right.
reasonable? How do you feel about people? I guess what I'm asking is, when you're buying collections or you're getting offers like that, or you see something on maybe a Facebook page you like, you say, hey, I'm interested, I'm going to PM you. And then they turn around and say, well, make me an offer.
Right.
Well, you know what I'm selling it for. So you know what the
Yeah.
value is. What are you willing to let it go for? You know the value. Why don't you set a price? I can see that side.
Right.
I can also see the other side of like, well, why would I want to sell 2 for 40 if I got someone willing to pay me $50, $55 for it? There's an argument being made about that too. That makes sense too.
Right. That's an interesting spot. I had a collection I bought from a guy where I said, what do you want for it? And he's like, I want $400. I said, done, let's do it. And it was a great collection.
Sure.
And then I have other guys that are like, what do you want to pay? And I'm like, if you're going to ask me, I'm going to give you kind of that same price, that lower price. And then I'll negotiate up, but I'm not going to give you my best price right away.
Yeah, I never do that. A long time ago, I used to be at a collectible show in California called Frankenstein Collectible Show.
Yeah.
Been there probably 30 years. It was every Wednesday, every Saturday, no admission, no parking fee. It was just, I go there every twice a week. And I have a guy come by, and I was the only guy in the building that sold wrestling cards, trading cards, long before I got into WWE Raw Deal. And they come by and I say, hey, how much you want to give me for this? I give them a price.
Right.
I said, okay, let me think about it. And they go walk around the room and see if they can see anybody else was going to want to buy it, kind of thing. And then come back to me and says, I'll take your price. I said, oh, for that card? And I would give them half. I'd offer them half of what I offered them earlier. Well, you told me it was $30. Now you're telling me it's 15. I said, yeah, because you shopped the room to find out it was the best deal.
Right.
And now you're going to come back to me and take it? No, I'm sorry. I'm going to pass on that then.
Well, and hey, you didn't get any other offers anywhere else, so that I'm your only source now to buy it, right?
Correct.
So you just told me you have no other options but
or I'm the best deal in the room, basically. I was the best price for you.
But
so I'm going to pass on it. So yeah, I get that, where people will send me stuff and ask me for offers all the time. And I go, I'd like to joke with, especially with somebody I kind of know because of the community and you get to know some people. I'll say, well, my price is $1. So you tell me you want $1,000, I'm going to pay you $1. So at least you tell me what you want. Let's meet somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Well, so in that Facebook group, in the wrestling Facebook group, somebody was asking for what was it, Brothers to the End throwback And I said, oh, I've got one, but I'd want $300 for it. And I was just shooting out a number
Yeah.
just to be like, whatever. And he's like, well, that's not reasonable, right? But I have someone message me and say, were you serious about that? I really want that card, and I'll buy that from you right now. So, I mean, that when you say, like, what's reasonable to some people is not to others.
Correct.
I mean, as far as, like, that autograph side of it, we don't see that necessarily as much in wrestling, but in other card games like Star Wars, Star Trek, ones where people like want the signatures of these actors, the collector's market actually drives up a lot of the pricing on those cards. So the players are like, well, that shouldn't be worth that. That's a ripoff. But the collector's like, sweet, I don't mind paying that because I'll go get it signed, and that's like worth X amount to me, right?
It's always
So
it's always about supply and demand, really.
Right. So you have to kind of realize there's other forces at work besides just you as a player thinking what the value should be in the game that you're playing. So, I mean, that's what I would say is like there's more to it than just the player aspect of it.
Now, you sell some Magic stuff too, don't you?
I do, yeah.
So there's a lot of different artists that do, obviously, Magic stuff. When an artist signs cards, does it increase the value by a lot, a small percentage?
Generally not in Magic. The cool thing with Magic, though, is you can get artists that will alter the cards, and they'll actually, like, draw the extra stuff onto the card for you and draw over it. So they're almost like recreating, a different variation of the card, and people love that.
But what's it worth to some people? What kind of market does it market? Nothing?
No, not really. It's more just I think people like having it done more than anything else. But I don't think there's much of a market for it.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of an interesting thing, but I don't think it really affects our game all that much.
Okay. Yeah, the wrestling side is weird just from that, but, autographs on cards. But back to the market pricing and the, the reasonable pricing and stuff like that. It's, I kind of think it's a good idea that something out there should be monitoring the market out there. But then again, you're asking someone to do something for free, probably.
Right.
And we kind of already do it ourselves, why we come up with our pricing. But it'd be nice if these people would do their homework, I think, and kind of say, well, here's this card sells for 50, this is what I'm asking for it.
Well, I mean, if I were them, I'd be like, all right, I went and looked at these different sites. They have it at this. No one has it in stock, so I'm offering it for this. I mean, that's really the way you should be doing it if you're smart about it.
Sure.
Or saying like, hey, I'm going to start bidding at this. I've seen bidding become a lot more popular, just like a 2 or 3 day auction within like the Verse group or Magic groups here recently.
Well, that's auctions basically. So what's happening here is in this discussion that's going on. I don't know if you joined it yet or not. Someone came up and said, the make an offer as being the primary business model for the group is actually has made him not want to buy cards on there anymore. Which again, I can see it from that side, and I see it from the other side too, where someone says, why should I leave money on the table? If I can get people wanting to, pay this, that, or the other, and kind of outbid each other. It's like a bidding now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think bidding is kind of the way to go if you're wanting to maximize your value on it versus just saying like, make your price. That almost feels like the old used car dealership type of area, right?
Yeah, it does actually. Very much does.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing how if this discussion keeps going. It's like that. It seems to be growing a little bit more.
Yeah, but I mean, like, no one's going to be happy leaving that discussion if everybody's just arguing about it.
Correct. Well, it's the power of the internet, man. We're all 7 feet tall and 500 pounds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny. Like I had, people want to be kind of the internet police where they're like, oh, that price is too high. And they want to whine and gripe about it. And then the person marks it as sold. And it's like, well, guess not.
Guess not. Yeah. And then you come across deals like I made a deal the other day where I got a really good deal on someone selling something on one of those groups. And we've been talking offline for more stuff that he has.
Right.
But it's what an item is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. Bottom line.
Sure.
And it also you have that aspect, and then you have supply and demand. So those are the two things that kind of play into everything here. So again, I see both sides from someone not wanting to leave money on the table and somebody who's tired of, will make me an offer.
Right.
I deal with it. You do too. I deal with it all the time. And when
Yep.
I PM somebody and say, hey, I'm interested in a lot, well, make me an offer. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know what to offer you. What's it worth to you? You obviously
Right.
have a price in mind. Tell me what your price in mind is.
I mean, the interesting thing to me too is a lot of times I'll get people say, "Well, I don't want to sell to a store," and I'm like, "Well, look, like I'm gonna get your cards that have been sitting in a closet into the community's hands that didn't have it available before, right? So like I'm doing a service for the community. Like when I
But
go into
you're
these
but you're
games,
also taking all the risk too on
and
it never getting into those hands either.
right, and I'm taking the risk. I'm putting my money up front. I'm putting my time into it. My these cards have to pay rent basically to live in my office, right?
Sure.
And so each card has to pay their rent for their sorting and their time and space and all of that. So I mean, I don't think people really take that into equation when they're looking to sell off like cards or collections, just the time that goes into all of this. So
Sure.
I mean, that's what's nice about you and I and Steve is we have a one place where you can dump all your stuff. We kind of do the rest of it,
We do it
right?
all. I mean, because
And
a
we
lot of
give you
times you're going
money.
to get people who just they throw it in a 900 count box or a 600 count box, and
Yep.
it's just all in there. And I got to take it all. I got to sort it. And there's, again, we talked about the last time we talked. The three of us talked. Time is money, and people don't
Yeah.
equate that. So it's something that you have to consider when you're doing this. I see George has become a big seller on the Facebook groups like that. Super nice guy. I have great conversations with him all the time.
Right.
I actually want to have him on this an episode once because I want to talk about because he's kind of in a little bit different than what we're doing. It's not a full-time gig for him. It's just sort of like something for him to get some stuff for his own collection and then sell off the rest. And he just kind of snowballs and keeps buying more and selling more and buying more. But
Right.
he's a great resource for people out there looking for, I don't want to buy from the website, guys. I want to buy
Yeah.
just straight from here, which is fine. You're going to have that.
Right.
I'd like to get his perspective and kind of find out, how he's doing too, so like that. But there's always gonna be guys like that. And then you got your eBayers and you've got other guys who just dump it, And I'm still looking for that wonderful garage sale deal. Somebody
Well,
out there's got a bunch of shit that they don't even know about.
so let me ask you this. For Raw Deal, was there much kind of extra things like sell sheets and whatnot that stores received?
Yes, I have tons of them. I have tons of them.
Okay, so I get asked all the time for like Star Wars and Star Trek if I still have those, and the problem is we're 20 plus years out that this game hasn't been being made for some of these games,
Sure.
and so people want these things, and I'm like, stores don't have that anymore. Like most of the stores from that era have like closed or they've dumped that out of their back room. Very few have it in an old storage unit, right?
I actually have sitting right over here next to me on the floor, but I can't get to. There's a whole row of sell sheets.
Yeah.
Mostly non-sport stuff, but even like old Fleer. There's Top stuff. There's old Comic Images stuff from their Olivia brand. I've got a ton of it. I've got so much stuff there.
And people collect that,
Sure.
So I would say like if you have it, like put it on your site, man, because that's good stuff. A lot of people want that. It's just
I have it on
not
my site.
available. What's that?
I have it on my site.
Yeah. I mean that's good.
I even put
you can get it.
When you get people like took the old rule books and use them as dividers sometimes for their stuff.
Yep.
I have rule books, extra rule books as well.
Yeah. I mean the tins always do well.
Yep. I got a bunch of those too. I gave so many of those away for prize support, usually either for an Adam Kreitz Memorial Tournament or I'd send them off with someone for World Championships at Gen Con.
Yeah.
And I fill them with packs. I put like,
nice.
Velocity packs, SS2 packs,
Yeah.
just to give away as prizes.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, so like a lot of these games had like the big banners or posters they used to give out. Did Raw Deal do anything like that, or did they?
I don't recall seeing any big banners or posters.
Yeah.
But there was sell sheets. Normally you would see a sell sheet and that'd be, taped to the window or something like that, or taped to the glass of some kind. I don't recall. I mean, I don't recall seeing any. That'd be a great question. I can talk to Creed about that.
I wonder why they wouldn't do that. I know that's a big advertising piece for a lot of, you get it in the store puts it up in their game room. It helps sell your game. The only side thing I could think of with Raw Deal, obviously you had the promo cards, but the crummy sleeves that they made.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of the only other side thing I could think of that they made that really advertised the game.
And those were not even for those were just those were prize support stuff for the
Yeah,
sleeves. But
yeah,
then they have yeah, I should talk to Creed about that and ask him because I don't recall anything like that as far as banners or
yeah.
I mean they didn't even do TV spots for Christ's sake. They did one in Spanish.
Oh yeah.
If you go on
Oh, I didn't know.
YouTube, you can find there's a Spanish commercial for Raw Deal.
Uh-huh. Oh wow.
It's pretty funny. I think it's awesome.
So I'm going through all these old. I'm trying to see if I got one offhand. I don't. Old magazines like Inquest, Combo. Yeah. Anyway, so it's been fun going through those and seeing like the old Raw Deal, advertisements like the SummerSlam one with the big Hulk.
Keep going. Go ahead. Keep going.
There's a lot of cool things like that in these old magazines. Like I was looking at one the other day that was talking about, the release of Mania and the grade they gave it and how it adds to the game. Anyways, I love old Inquests. I collect those. I've almost got the full run. I'm like 5 issues off. And anyways, really cool things, if you can get those and just look back through, what was being said about the game as it was being released by these gaming magazines, how it was being, shown to the gaming community. Pretty cool stuff out there. Anyways, I love old Inquest and scries like that.
I mean, I don't have any Raw Deal stuff here because I sent it all to my partner who has it all, but I've got I've got a stack full of old the Absolute Divas trading card set, the 2-sided sell sheet. Then Topps had it for their action when they first got it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Heritage.
Yeah.
Some old Fleer stuff. WrestleMania 20 set when it came out in 2004, 2003.
Oh, cool.
All Access, Championship Clash, Raw's War. This is an old Comic Images one. Comic Images had the license. They did No Mercy.
Right.
So in the back would have, all your SKUs.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
I have tons of stuff like this. I have stuff from Rittenhouse and Inkworks and Comic Images, Topps, Fleer, just a bunch of stuff.
Right. Oh,
those are cool things. They're cool things. A lot of guys, like when I was really heavily into collecting wrestling cards, I used to use these sales sheets because Fleer didn't make binders for them. Topps didn't make binders for them. So I'd buy my own binders at Office Max, and I would take these sales sheets like that and slide them in front and back. They were 2-sided, one for the front, one for the back. Then I printed my own spines.
Oh, yeah.
And then I put in my collection. So I have that's how they are in my storage unit in California.
Yeah.
So even old stuff like, old Action Pack from, 94 and 95, I would take those, and I had the sell sheet for those. Or sometimes I find like, the most popular trading cards for wrestling right now is the 82-83 Pro Wrestling All-Stars. They have cards in there. A Hogan card on eBay recently sold. It got a PSA 10 grading on it. And it was also autographed by Hogan. So clearly it was autographed years later. But the DNA on it, for the DNA grading, also got a 10. Sold for $20,000. $20,000. And I have those sets I have those in my storage unit. So I'm like, maybe I'm selling my sets after all. But there's
that's retirement, right?
Retirement.
That's retirement.
Yeah. Well, not for my son's college, if there is a future. But those didn't really have professional sales sheets. They had full-page ads in magazines. So I would take the magazine ad, scan it, and that became my binder cover.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
But there's all kinds of little things like that become collectible. I think should be on the market too, which is sell sheets, extra rule books. I see some guys sometimes offering to sell their nicely minted flat starter decks.
Yeah.
I'm looking for images right now. I'm only missing a few booster box images that I can have, and I'll have everything as far as image wise goes.
Yeah, I mean, I've tossed so many starter deck boxes away. I mean, this is a sealed one.
Yeah.
But I've tossed so many of these empty boxes, but I know people do collect. These ones aren't as important to the game. I'm trying to see. Some games used to put a card on the back. Like Doomtown did it. Legends of the Burning Sands, Dune, Legends of the Five Rings. There's actually a card on the back.
Oh, nice.
And so what I do is I cut those out and, put it in a sleeve so they're nice, and I sell them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But that's pretty popular in those games. But at least with Raw Deal, there's nothing necessarily you need on the starters.
No, I'm sure there's probably a few starter images I probably need the backs of. But
Oh yeah.
I think I've got them all for the most part. Someone recently was really kind and sent me, I needed like a Shelton image. I needed a Randy Orton starter deck image. And
Yeah.
they sent me those. And then they sent me as a flat, like they had flattened them. So that was pretty.
So you're saying that you would ask someone about kind of the production there on, why they didn't do posters. Do you know why they didn't put the card images on the website when, they do the previews and it'd be like in a Word doc or, something like that? Why didn't they actually put images?
A great question to ask, like Creed, because he was a very integral part of that kind of stuff. And the only time that they had a sell sheet that actually really contained like sample images was that premiere episode, that premiere one. And at WrestleMania 2000, which was in Anaheim, California, Comic Image had a booth there, and they were both promoting their trading cards, and they were getting ready to debut Raw Deal. And so they had those WrestleMania preview exclusive decks. And then they had like a multi-page press kit for Raw Deal that I had one of, and I had sold it, got rid of it. But it had like multiple pages in it to explain the game. It showed like the how it was kind of supposed to work, and it had sample images of the 7 starters or whatever it was, like that, where they were all the same superstar value, the same starting hand size, and same borders like that. And I turned those into cards.
Yeah.
But that's the only time.
That's cool.
That's the only time I remember seeing it. But I don't know why they didn't put images on the website.
To me, that it's interesting because dealing with these other games, that shows me that Comic Images was a trading card company and not a collectible card game company.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? Because these other CCG, TCG companies, they knew to do that because that helps promote their product. And, you send the images to different websites that they then show it and advertise for you.
Yep.
And they didn't do that. It was just on their own site. And I feel like, that lack of posters to put up in stores, lack of images, I feel like those were just marketing pieces that were missing from the game that other card game companies knew to do that. And then this company didn't because it just wasn't run as well as it could have been.
Yeah, there's a couple people that are from the old school days, Creed being one of them, that I want to talk to him about that kind of stuff, because this conversation actually got brought up before on one of the Facebook groups about, can you imagine what a commercial would have done for Raw Deal kind of thing? And again, it's all about money. So, who's paying for that airtime? Probably Comic Images, because WWE is going to pay for it. You bought our license. You do what you need to do with it, and just make sure you check your images with us before we give it approval.
Yeah. Well, and looking through like these old inquests, it shows, the list of top 10 games, right? And, 1 and 2 are usually like Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Are in there. And then when it drops down to that next level, there's like a whole 0 missing at the end of the number. And Raw Deal, I don't believe, was ever in that top 10 from looking at it, right? So that tells me those sales numbers are really low in comparison to these other major games being released. So it makes me curious as to, what those sales numbers are really like for the game. So anyways.
Clearly we know that they were declining after a certain point, thus the reason of, not renewing the license. So
right.
But it cracks me up because, every single year on TCO, it never fails. Somebody makes a post about wanting to bring the game back.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, if I won the lottery, this would happen, that would happen, blah, blah. And we actually have a guy who did win the lottery, and he said, looked into it and goes, nope, ain't worth it.
Yeah. No, I mean, we had that with the Star Wars license with Decipher having the rights to the game. Just the mechanics of how you play the game, Decipher wants $1 million just for that. And that's not even the license for Star Wars. That's just mechanics to play the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can you imagine what that price is really like to get that? So, I mean, it's better to have it free and having fans creating it, making it what it is,
And you have to be careful with that kind of stuff, too. So like that. Trust me, I walk that fine lines like that already. So, but, that's a little tied into what, before we even started recording today, where I said, like, things could be better. But So I can talk to you about it offline. But yeah, so yeah, it's interesting about the market and how it is dictated just like that. I don't think it's really rocket science.
No.
Um, it's pretty easy to do, and I do think there's a level of laziness on some people who just don't want to do their homework. Just say, "Here, make me an offer." But again, on the other side too, it's also like, well, I would like to have a bidding war and stuff like that, but that's kind of what eBay's for, is it not? I mean, that's kind of what an auction site's for. I
Well,
mean,
and when you put something up like that, you're going to get flooded with messages, right?
sure,
I can't tell you how many times people say I PMing you, like, and then I never even get that message. And then
sure,
they're always in the other folder, and then you're having to go back and forth with a million. Like, I really hate doing that. Like,
yeah,
that just takes away from your time, like the value. How many times do people like agree on something that never pay you? I mean, there's so much to that it's just. I mean, that's why having a site is so much easier
it
to
is.
deal with stuff like that.
And I think I don't know about you and how sales have been for you, or buying lots, or your buy price stuff like that, but it's not very often. I don't get a lot of buy price through my site. I really
Uh-huh.
don't. Probably not to the level you guys do, because you guys sell more than just raw deal. But just speaking about raw deal, I don't know about you guys, but I don't get a lot of buy price, submissions.
Right.
Every once in a while, and then if I get like 3 or 4 in a row, like in a month, I go, "Hey, is something that's going on I don't know about? Like, is everybody dumping their shit? What's going on?"
Yeah. I
um,
get about like 8 to 10 buy orders a week is probably on average. Right now I don't have raw deal up. I'm going to be adding it back here soon. I want to get all my inventory on first. But yeah, I mean, before I took it down though, I was getting probably like 1 to 2 buy orders a week for raw deal. I
oh,
mean,
that's
not
nice.
huge, not like it's a ton of stuff, but it's like, a few $5 cards, few $2 cards, that sort of
Sure.
thing. So I mean, I definitely was getting it in, but just not a ton. But yeah, I think it helps having those other games. I was talking to this a good friend of mine is the Twig brothers are good friends of mine from the Connecticut area. They're raw deal players. They both work for the WWE at different times in their lives. Um, they own a card game website where they sell Transformers and Star Wars Destiny. Star Wars Destiny was canceled right before everything kind of hit the fan with the coronavirus, and
Sure.
it was canceled. And then they just announced today that Transformers is canceled. So
Oh,
the two games they sell are now out of print, and they're like, "Oh crap, what's the next one we're gonna do?" Right?
hmm,
And it's interesting, having been in this for so long. I've seen so many new card games come along, websites pop up that just sell this game. The game lasts like 1 to 2 years, dies, and then what happens to that site, right? Like,
yeah.
it basically dies too, because it's just not there anymore.
There's no more
So
interest.
so to me, like, I've had so many games I sold live, they died on me, and I continue to sell them. So I've seen this cycle kind of happen, that like it's hard to me to think of just having one, because that doesn't generate enough income, let's say, to sustain where I want to be with it for the time that I invest, the space, all of that,
Now
right?
you're talking about me, because that's all I do is one thing.
Right. But I mean, you have this whole other trading card side where, like, I want to eventually add like old Marvel cards to my site
I
from
don't
the
have any
90s.
trading. I have no trading cards on my site.
I know, but like, you have all that wrestling stuff, right? That you could put onto there.
I could, but there's, in the trading card world, as I probably said before, I own WrestlingTradingCards.com, which is an
Right.
archive of all wrestling cards. So we have some guys on there that are all the serious collectors on the planet.
Uh-huh.
Use that site. They talk on that message board. They buy, sell, trade, make an announcement, all that stuff. There's guys on there. There's a guy, I think he's in Alaska,
Uh-huh.
and his name is, he goes by Husker Have. I he owns the market, man. There's no
Oh,
reason
okay.
for me to get in there and go and start competing with him. Well, as a matter of fact, I was talking to him probably 5 years ago plus, where I was like, you know what? I should sell him all of my singles. I have so many tens of thousands of singles of all various wrestling cards over the years.
Right.
At one point, I think I had about 1.5 million singles I had. And then there's
Yeah.
a guy out of St. Louis that was buying me out at 2,000
Mm.
cards at a time to fill
Wow.
vending machines. He was buying them for
Nice.
lots, and then he'd put
Yeah.
them in little groups of packets, and then put them in
Right.
vending machines that people would put 50 cents in and try and get them out.
Sure.
And he facilitated the entire St. Louis area.
Oh, wow.
And then he just stopped. But Yeah, I don't do wrestling cards. I don't foresee myself ever selling wrestling cards. I am in the market right now where I have a couple of companies that have been sending me some samples to see if I like their product or not that I might expand VelaCards into.
Yeah, I know
Um,
you looked at the HeroClix before.
I asked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you asked about it. That's a no-go, man. HeroClix is always a bad business. Um,
That's
the
why I'm
one,
glad I asked instead of jumping in feet first like that because I know nothing about it.
yeah, no good there. The one that I'm kind of that might be of interest is Ultimate Fighting System. You know, we had our whole play group of wrestlers switched to that and started playing that. I know the group that I used to play with in Tennessee, they kind of did the same thing. And that was kind of the like in between game. And that game's been on and off, alive, dead for quite some time with different, owners of it. So I've always kind of thought that would be an interesting like side game to, WWE, where I think a lot of players like that, and it kind of has the same start with a superstar or, character out, that sort of deal.
But you're not going to get that WWE license though because that's the characters you want to play. So then you
Right.
end up being like a game like Super Show, which is a really great game. It's a very addictive, fast-paced playing game. It has they're mostly indie guys. Of
Right.
course, a lot of those guys now are in WWE, like Johnny Gargano and AJ Styles, and those guys are all there. But you didn't know them. They just released an RVD superstar set for them.
Oh, cool.
Because, Impact has a better, they allow their stars to do more things.
Right.
So I don't know. There's other wrestling card games that I'm interested in possibly in. I don't know if they're going to be worth it or not.
I know there's like the old ECW one, Stars, I think is what it was called.
Never even knew about that game.
Yeah, ECW had not ECW, WCW.
WCW had Nitro.
Nitro. Yeah, that's it. That card game. Yeah.
Give me another minute.
I think there's like one or two sets of that. I can't remember offhand.
There's two of them. There was a Nitro, and then they made a hardcore one.
Yeah.
Well, that was the original one right there.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
I have tons of these sitting around.
I know there's still people that buy it, so I mean that would be interesting to add.
I don't know if I want to get into that. I mean, there's, I don't know. I don't. Does it sell enough that's worth me investing my time to put into the database? And I don't know.
I don't know
I've got
either.
a lot of it. I have a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean I'm kind of the same boat. I've got it. I just haven't messed with it yet. What's the other one? I know that there's been talk of like MMA type fighting games. Card games.
I have a wonderful guest scheduled for tomorrow. No, next Saturday I have.
Oh, okay.
And it's he's been working on that for quite some time.
So but even MMA, I mean it used to have, I think, such a bigger following like 10 years ago than it does even now. I think it's really dropped off the following for it.
You think so? Because I don't think their numbers suggest that.
Really?
I mean, 10 years ago compared to now in the last, few years, you got, the Conor McGregors of the world like that. He's retired for the third time now. I mean, these guys are doing like, 2 million plus buy rates on their pay-per-views, but you weren't doing that 10 years ago.
The McGregor, I think, is still there. He's so popular, but besides that, like Bones Jones has been such a flame out.
He's still a draw though, man. He's still a draw.
Yeah, I guess so. Like my group of guys, we got into it when Iceman was in it, Chuck Liddell, and Captain America, and all these guys that were kind of the older guys, and then like Forrest was good. Kind of like when they started doing their reality show.
Well, that's what helped UFC big time.
Right. And we had a big group of guys that were into it in my neighborhood. And I mean, it was 20 plus guys that we'd go watch it. And of that same group, only like one sometimes watches it now. I mean, we've all just like lost interest. And maybe, there's a whole nother generation coming up that really like it. But, that's why I say, like, to me, it seems like it's died off because the people that I knew that were so into it are just completely out of it. So
yeah, I see a lot of, I do follow a lot of MMA myself. And I see it. There's still a lot of interest in it, I think. When ESPN posts something about, coming up, there's easily 1,000 to 2,000 comments on it. I mean, no question about it.
That ESPN deal for sure helped. It's much better than USA. So,
of course, but that was what put them on the map, really, kind of thing. I think when you can watch that Ultimate Fighter that followed, Monday Night Raw, or something like that.
That was great, man. That first season was so good of that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really enjoyed it.
That'd be fun. Well, Yeah, that's kind of pretty much all I have for this segment here. Just really talk about the autograph world, and I think there's going to be some interesting comments after this video gets posted. I'm
Yeah,
looking
for sure.
interesting comments, but market pricing, autographs. I kind of encourage anybody who watches this and listens to this that definitely leave their feedback on what they think. What are autographs on raw deal cards worth? Is it
Right.
is it worth marking it up a couple bucks, $10, $20? I mean, what's it worth? I mean, I have no idea.
Right.
When my business for my booking business where we travel everywhere to do these autograph signings. I mean, we go do a Kurt Angle. When I work with Kurt Angle, I mean, we're $40 an autograph.
Yeah.
That's what someone pays in addition to getting into the damn show, whatever they're charging, which I never know what that cost is. But to get in that show, then they got to come in. You stand in line. You get to meet him. You shake his hand. You want to get a picture. It's probably more money. Get an autograph. I mean, if someone came in and it happened to me before when I took her to Lita all the time, people would come up and bring her, extreme hedonism, or they bring, her face card or
Right.
something like that, and they get that signed. I'm like, what's that really worth to somebody then?
Yeah. But
So
I think it's also that experience of meeting them, seeing it, getting it done yourself.
that's a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more to it than just buying it for someone else that had it signed.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So I'm interested to hear what people's feedback is. I generally don't. I didn't for this one. I generally will post like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to have, Scott Church on, blah, blah, blah. We're going to talk about this. If you have any questions, and kind of maybe have something like that. I didn't do that for this, but I'm interested in seeing what people's feedback is on the different social media platforms, on the YouTube channel itself, and start engaging that way. So, check it out to yourself too, to see what people are saying and maybe chime in.
For sure.
So
Love
it's always a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
You too, Tony. Thank you.
Let's
Thanks,
talk
everybody.
again soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.